You're watching SKST Radio.
Well, welcome to another episode of SKST Radio 101 Entertainment with Cammie, Grayson, and friends. And today I have a new friend, Mr. Timothy Stevens, director, cool guy. Hello, Timothy. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for being on. So we want to know all about you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Where should I start?
Start from the beginning. How did you get started into filmmaking?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something I've wanted to do for most of my life. As a kid, I grew up watching a lot of old horror movies, and when I say old, I mean like Nosferatu, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. So these are silent horror films, some of the very first horror films, and that really inspired me to want to do this myself. So I picked up my parents' old VHS-C camera. It was enormous. It was probably 3 feet across, and the battery didn't work, so I had to have a extension cable plugged into it at all times if we wanted to move it around. And we actually, a bunch of my friends and I did a spoof of Jurassic Park in middle school. And we filmed it out on this friend's farm, and pretty way out in the field. So we were tethered probably 200 feet of extension cord, which I'm sure was not safe, but that's kind of where it all started. And then starting around early high school, I kind of started to take it a little bit more seriously and tried my first short film, which was a kind of an homage to some early Italian horror like Dario Argento, which was very stylized horror, mostly like crime drama type stuff. So this was like a slasher film to some degree. And that's kind of where it all started. I was experimenting, and then by the time I graduated high school, I was determined to go to film school and make this a career. And since then, it's been a lot of short films, a lot of working, in the industry. I did a lot of television. I've done quite a bit of documentary work, all while kind of building up to The Ghost Lights, which is my first narrative feature film. And consequently all that stuff really influenced, there's bits of The Ghost Lights that have a documentary feel to it. It's not a documentary, obviously, but pieces of it kind of feel like a documentary. So, all this experience kind of has built up to this moment here.
Right. Well, I really enjoyed the film. And when looking at the film, like you said, it does have that feel. Some of this could actually be true if you look at it that way. And if you're an X-Files fan, so it's something.
And I am.
See? And so it gives you that look and feel of this could really be true. This really could happen in Texas. So
yes, well, and it does happen in Texas. This all started actually with some research from. I was working on a pilot television show. It was going to be kind of a paranormal investigation travel show. So it would each imagine Destination Truth with ghosts and aliens, basically. And the TV show never happened. Like most pilots, they kind of get buried and never see the light of day. But I did a lot of research, and I talked to people out in far west Texas who had close encounters with lights in the sky. I I wish, because I did this for a television network, so I don't own any of that stuff that we put together. I wish I still had like the transcripts of some of the pre-interviews I did with people. But I talked with this one guy that he had a really traumatic experience. And that traumatic experience directly made it into the ghost lights, pretty much. I mean, I changed some stuff, obviously.
Of course.
But the general idea of coming into close, because most of the time these kind of ghost lights are seen at a far distance, miles out, and they're just little twinkling lights, kind of like UFOs. This guy said it was from here to here, like it really got like right, and it screwed him up. And all of that, I mean, that conversation I had with him stuck with me. And then a couple of years later, when I was getting ready to produce my first narrative feature, that conversation really stuck in my mind, because I don't think we think of like ghost lights, which are seen all over. They're just inexplicable lights twinkling in the distance from places that they shouldn't be coming from. We don't think of them as being something that could hurt us. Right, and as a horror filmmaker, that's a terrifying concept. So I'm totally. And I was totally inspired by that. So
wow,
yeah.
So when you did the casting, how did that work out? How did you end up with the people that you did have on?
Yeah, so so there's a really small cast, and we did this on purpose. It's very it was a low budget film, but we also filmed during COVID, so we wanted to have as few people together as possible. Which ended up I ended up shooting the film. I ended up playing a role actually in the movie. So I play kind of the villain character, the Man in Black. And
I was going to say something about that, but never mind.
yeah, we can talk about that after a bit. But I really wrote I wrote the parts in the film for the actors that play them. These are all people I've worked with in the past. John Francis McCullough, who plays Arthur, the father character. He is the co-producer and co-founder of Spectrograph Films, our film company, and devilishly handsome man and a great actor. So when I needed the suave cowboy, he was it. And then Alexandra, or Alex, is played by Katriva Phillips, and I actually worked on a short film with her years ago. And the biggest thing about her is that she can cry on the drop of a dime. I could go, Katriva, cry, and she'll do it. But obviously it goes deeper with that. She emotes really well. And the whole film really, it's her story as she goes out to West Texas to investigate these lights. And there's a lot of flashbacks where we're seeing her father interviewing this man who had the close encounter with lights. And so a lot of it really hinges on her ability to emote, because she doesn't have a lot of dialogue actually. And she just, I wrote the part for her. I knew she would do great. And then Billy Blair, he's actually kind of our name actor in this. People may notice him from both Machete films. He's in, I think, both Sin City movies. He's buddy with Robert Rodriguez, and he's also in Alita Battle Angel and Rob Zombie's 3 from Hell and a lot of other movies, but those are kind of the big ones that people recognize him. And, he just has a look, when you look at Billy, you think that guy has seen some things. He's been through some stuff. And he really brought that to life. When I was looking for somebody that could look haunted by an experience, troubled, Billy just really, he had that.
He nailed it
in himself. So yeah, really, and that's pretty much the cast except for me. And
so let's talk about the Man in Black.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so eerie, and it's like, where does this dude come from?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I did for every script I do quite a lot of research, and the Men in Black has an origin that's far older than the franchise that we're all familiar with, and it started just a couple of years after Roswell, which was 48, and I think it was up in Washington, and they saw a UFO, and then afterwards they basically got kind of hounded by this strange group of individuals that were wearing black suits, black trench
Mhm.
coats, black hats, black sunglasses, sometimes in the middle of the night, and they would pull up in black Cadillacs, and they didn't have any hair at all. So no facial hair, no eyebrows. They're bald, and they kind of talked weird, like they didn't really, like they were trying to be human. They're
Yes.
but they weren't. They're obviously not. And these cast of characters have shown up uh, over the last 50, 60 years in the wake of UFO sightings. And some people have thought they're government agents, but truthfully, they seem to have no real agenda other than to terrify people, and make people look no further into the events that they just experienced.
Yeah.
And it's really spooky. It's much scarier than Will Smith and his,
I mean, yeah, exactly.
uh,
Exactly.
and all of that. It's very terrifying. And so when I read that, I was like, well, dang, like we got to pull this guy in. We need a villain. And originally I thought I would pull someone else in to be a part of the cast, but it was only a couple of parts. It really didn't make sense to bring someone else on a literal road trip across West Texas. And just for fun, I took a picture of myself and photoshopped my all my facial hair out, goatee, mustache, eyebrows, and showed it to my wife, and she went, "Holy crap, that's scary." And I was like, well, dang, I guess I have to do this. So I immediately went, got a shower, shaved it all off, including
Oh,
my
wow.
eyebrows, and came out, and she literally screamed. And I was like, well, it's a done deal. Like, I guess I have to do it at this point. um, but it did make it easier, because we were trying to keep a low profile, not many people. We're all staying in Airbnbs together as we traveled
Mhm.
filming, and it just made sense for me to do it as well. So it was fun. I don't get in front of the camera if I can help it, but it was kind of a fun role. And you can imagine, like stopping at gas stations and like going up to pay for
Yeah.
gas,
Yeah.
and people are looking at me like, what's wrong with this guy? He's wearing a black suit in the middle of the desert with no eyebrows. Who are you? I wonder if people maybe thought I was like an actual Man in Black, possibly.
Exactly. Exactly. So, with that being said, I mean, how long did it take you to film this show?
Yeah, relatively short amount of time. Most films take 20 to 30 days. 60 is not uncommon for a little bit bigger films. We shot in 12, roughly,
Okay.
mostly consecutively. There's like 1 or 2 days off in between here and there, but yeah, pretty quick. And it really works out that way because it is a road trip movie.
Mhm.
So a lot of the action takes place as she's literally, us as a crew, we are crossing the entire width of Texas, which I think people, if you haven't been in Texas, you don't realize that if you started in Dallas, where we are, you drive west on I-20, you can go almost 800 miles and still be in the state.
Right.
Um,
Well,
because eventually
I'm
you just kind
actually
of.
from Dallas, so
Oh, you
I'm
are? Okay,
familiar.
good. Yeah, so
Yeah, I'm from
what's
Dallas,
up.
so
You know what's up.
yeah.
It can be huge, and but yeah, so a lot of that was just literally filming on the way. We started in Dallas. We headed out across central Texas, through Abilene, and then out to the
Mhm.
oil fields in Odessa, where we have one of
Oh,
our a really
wow.
fun scenes there in the hotel where she's chased by the Man in Black,
Mhm.
and we even got some shots of the fire coming out through the oil rigs, and then literally all the way out to Alpine, Marfa, and then finally the ghost town of Terlingua, which is an old mining town that is super spooky, and
Wow.
was the place I visited years ago, and thought like, okay, I have to make a
This
movie
would be
here.
it. Yeah. That's so
Yeah.
cool. That is so cool. So, what is next? What's coming down the pipeline for you?
Yeah, so the Ghost Lights is out now. We're on VOD, and pretty soon we'll have some more platforms are being added, like Tubi, and it'll even be on YouTube in some places. But for now, people can find it on Apple Plus, Amazon Prime. I think there's Film Is Now, I think is a name of one of the. Actually, here I can just. I can look this up really quick. Let's see. Amazon, Google Play, Apple TV, Film Is Now, and Microsoft Movies. So you can
Nice.
go watch, rent it, check it out, buy even. That's really helpful for us as indie filmmakers
Right.
to
Right.
actually buy the film, next for us is we actually have another film in post-production right now. So we're editing a kung fu action comedy. So John Francis McCullough is a martial artist. He plays the
Okay.
cowboy, but he's also a martial artist. I like to joke that he literally knows kung fu. And Matrix reference there, but he wrote, directed, and starred in this action comedy where it's called Dead Hand, and they're trying to stop a doomsday nuclear device from getting in the hands of a terrorist. And so it
Okay.
sounds kind of heavy, but there's a lot of comedy in there. It's
Okay.
very reminiscent of like buddy comedies from like the 1980s, action movies. And that should be finished soon, and that I hope we'll start hitting the film festival circuit early next year. And
Nice.
then, it's a long process. It was 2 years from the time we finished filming the Ghost Lights to now where it's out. So it'll be a bit before people see Dead Hand.
Yeah.
But other than that, we're trying to develop some other movies. I've got a lot of new ideas in my arsenal that we're kind of looking for funding for at the moment.
Okay.
We're also shooting a documentary that is going to be out probably sometime next year as well. So,
Well, you know what I've been wanting to ask you? How do you come up with how do you directors come up with like the soundtracks and the music that you use in the background? How does
yeah.
somebody get in touch with you to who wants to produce some music for you?
Yeah. So, at the moment, I have a favorite composer that I work with. He's a guy I met in film school, and he actually composed the soundtrack for my first short film that I made first major short film that I made in film school.
Mhm.
His name is Brandon Moz. And he's done a lot of work in actually several films that Billy is in. Brandon has also done the soundtrack for. But I'm a lot of filmmakers, and this, I didn't totally understand this until I started making movies myself, is like we find partners to work with. It's why like Tim Burton always works with Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter, right? Is like you find in Danny Elfman, who's his
Mhm.
composer.
Mhm.
You find people that just like understand you on a almost like subconscious level. So
Mhm.
with Brandon, I sent him a copy of the script as it was done. We hadn't even started filming yet. And I was like, hey, dude, this is your next project once we finish. I said, like, what I've been listening to as I wrote the script was like a lot of Hans Zimmer and like the soundtrack for Interstellar. Blade Runner was a big influence for me. That soundtrack by Vangelis. And and I wasn't saying, like, I always say like, hey, don't copy those people. I'm just letting you know like what I've been listening to.
Right.
And I think he actually sent me an early draft before we had even started filming, and he was like, hey man, what do you think of this? And of course my brain exploded. I was like, perfect. Once he finally sent me the final draft, because what you do is you finish the film as best as you can, you send him a copy without any music at all. And generally, I have an idea of where I want music to start and stop.
Mhm.
In sections, I don't want any music at all. And you make basically an Excel sheet that just indicates all of that. And then he started sending me drafts, and I was kind of in tears because I just felt like I wasn't worthy of the soundtrack. Like
Oh,
people can
wow.
find it. It's on SoundCloud. If you look up Brandon Maas,
Okay.
Maahs, or just search the Ghost Lights, I'm sure you can find it. and it's free to listen to, and it's just an absolutely beautiful piece of orchestration. And we actually were able to get it was during COVID, and one of the only places in the world that was still like letting people get together and produce music was I believe they were in Hungary.
Oh,
So we actually have a live orchestra that was able to compose this, and consequently, because they were the only people doing it, it was pretty affordable at that point. Normally indie filmmakers, we depend on a lot of synthesizers and stuff because it's just cost prohibitive to
right,
hire a live orchestra.
right.
But yeah, and then another like uh, thing that we play with a lot of is like, this is one of the props from the film. So she's listening on
Uh-huh.
a cassette tape, and I really wanted that kind of like analog, like fuzzy feeling to be in the music as
Mhm.
well. So one thing he did, which was really cool, is that he for certain sections composed everything, made it sound really top notch, and then he actually recorded it back onto a cassette tape, and then
Oh,
recorded out
cool.
of that cassette tape back into the computer. So there's sections that actually have a natural tape uh,
That
fuzz
that
in it.
grimy like sound. That was pretty
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, yeah, I get you.
And and there's something very unsettling about that. If you ever listen to like old tapes, sometimes they warp and they sound like a little off. And it was really
Mhm.
perfect for kind of creating a creepy bed
Mhm.
to all this.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's really cool. And we actually, for our Indiegogo backers, we actually made some tapes where we took the soundtrack and put it onto cassette tapes and
Oh,
sent it
wow,
out to
that's
them.
cool.
So not many people have those. I've got a copy that I sometimes put in my stereo and listen to. So
That's pretty cool. The lady, the actress, she sort of reminded me of, Blair Witch, that Heather girl.
from the original.
Yeah, from the original.
Oh, okay,
She
cool.
reminded me of her for whatever reason while I'm watching her, and and like you said, she cries, and her sister's letting her have it, and I'm just like thinking she reminds me of the girl from Blair Witch.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
yeah,
Well,
yeah, she was pretty
that's
good.
yeah, that's a big inspiration for me, and just more from like a marketing standpoint of like how you can convince people that like something's a real movie,
Mhm,
or
mhm,
it's a real
mhm.
story. It's something that actually has happened. But well, it's cool. I'll have to. I'm actually getting together with Katriva tomorrow to work on another project, and I'll let her know that.
Yeah,
So
let her know
I'm
she
sure
did
she
an
would
excellent
appreciate that.
job. She was really good, really good. Okay, so Timothy, give us some words of wisdom. What would you
Yeah.
offer someone who's trying to do exactly what you're doing right now?
Um, I I think the most important thing is to stop waiting for other people to give you an opportunity. And I'll be honest, I did that for years. I made a lot of short films. I wrote a lot of scripts, a lot of feature scripts, and learned how to budget, how to create like a feature film budget, break down a script, create a budget. And I worked a lot with people in the industry and learn the mechanics of making a film, and all that's really great, but I was really waiting for someone to like walk up to me and hand me a check and say, go make a movie, buddy, you can do it now. and
Yeah,
uh and to some degree, like, you have to have that, right? Because if you're not independently wealthy, then you need
it's a
someone
struggle.
else's money to make a movie. But I waited a long, long time, and it basically took the pandemic for me to go like, I mean, we didn't know the state of the industry. There's people saying that maybe the film industry was like dead, like this is
Mhm.
it. We just didn't know. It felt apocalyptic, and we didn't know if we would live through it.
Right,
There's
right.
so much unknowns.
Yeah.
It obviously wasn't quite that bad, but at the time, it really
It
seemed like the end of it all.
yeah,
And I
you're right.
was like, damn it, if I'm gonna go out having not made my first feature film, I don't
Yeah,
care if anyone sees it. I'm gonna make it. And we figured out how to do it safely. Slowly we started to get the rapid tests, so it was affordable for all of us to get tested. And we used some of my wife's 401k money, God bless her, and it wasn't a lot of money. It was like $7,000 for production, which is tiny. They people consider like 500,000 to be a micro budget film. So we were working with like a sub microscopic budget. I don't even know. And yeah, we just went out and did it, and I'm so grateful because I'm really feeling now that having made my first feature film and having it be out in the world is the thing I needed all along to make the next film, and to make that film that's 500 to 800,000 to a million, because investors and producers that deal in trying to pull projects and resources together, they want to see you have a track record, and it's so easy to go out and make a pretty decent looking short film that no longer is adequate.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to a lot of people. They would say like, "Hey, your short films are great, but can you handle a feature film?" And I'm like, "Yes, of course I can." They're like, "Do you have one?" I was like, "No." So
Yeah, yeah.
there's kind of like you have to like prove yourself. And I just got tired of waiting for someone else to give me a green light, and so did John Francis McCullough. Both of us, we basically just kind of felt like, if not us, then no one's going to do this for us.
Right,
Like we
exactly.
have to be the origin of our own
Yeah, I mean, you're
our
absolutely
own
right.
journey. So
Yeah, yeah.
and I know so many people that they're just waiting for it to be the right moment, and I think there's never a right moment.
Right. Now you
It's
have
never
to
going to
seize the
be
moment.
perfect.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. So on so many scales, I mean, like with pandemic, you're right. We thought this was the end. We didn't know, and it's still not over. So at the end of the day, at least you got this done. Now you're ready to move on to the next one, and
Hmm.
there's no stopping you now at this point. You got just keep going, keep going, keep going.
Yeah, yeah,
So
for sure.
absolutely, and this film was good. This film really was good. It kept my attention. Like I said, I'm a sci-fi buff anyway, so
Oh,
I'm
cool,
looking for
cool.
everything.
Yeah,
And the Men in Black. Who is it? Where did he come from? What's his purpose? And so
right.
it played it all out. And like I said, it could have been, and you said it was based off of somebody's from their experience, but me not knowing that, to me I'm thinking, oh, this is pretty cool. This could have happened. In Texas you never know what's going to
Yeah,
happen in Texas,
I
so
don't know. Yeah, that's. I mean, that's the whole West Texas is a vibe, and to me, a lot of people are captivated by the beauty of it, and that's very true. Like, it's such a pretty part of the world. The further west you go, once you get past Odessa, um, which is pretty flat and kind of gross. Um, no offense if you live in Odessa, but it's a oil town.
Mhm.
But Big Bend, which is a state park out there, is just like another world, and but also is in places you can drive 100 miles and not see another soul.
Right.
And people have been living out in Big Bend for, I mean, if you count the Native Americans, like, thousands of years. But
Right.
back in the 17 and 1800s, there was pioneers that just like set out that direction, and they built a cabin, and they brought some cattle with them, and
Hmm.
they lived there. There's a lot of oil mining. There's a lot of mining of different minerals that happened out there, and a lot of that really dried up in the 20s and 30s. So there's all these ghost towns and remnants
Wow.
of civilization, big hulking pieces of iron that are just sticking out of the ground. And they've covered up most of the mine shafts, but if you look, there's open mine shafts that just go up 500 feet down into
Wow.
darkness. And you begin to feel very weird out there. You feel isolated, but you also feel kind of vulnerable, but you also feel like you're not alone
Hmm.
too. And I don't, it's hard to and maybe that's because there's all these kind of like remnants of the past out there. And there are a lot of people that, if you want to go disappear, go to West Texas. There's room to become forgotten out there. And some people will go out to West Texas to be forgotten. And you might turn a corner around a mountainside and find some dude, held up in a solar powered RV, with an arsenal of weapons and
Right.
and
Yeah.
and
It's
in a
the
meth
world.
lab
So this
over
is where
here,
I'm
like you
going.
don't know. So it's really wild, and there's smuggling that happens out there. People go over the Chihuahuan Desert between Mexico and really Terlingua, is kind of the last final stop for civilization. And there's banditos, and it's like the freaking Wild West, really,
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah. Man, I remember driving. We went to Port Arthur, then we drove all the way out to South Padre Island. But I do remember one of those trips, we ended up crossing over the border, and there was like no traffic lights, no stop signs. I mean, it was just like zoom, zoom, zoom. You can get ran over trying to get to, I think it was like a big shopping center type thing.
Okay.
But it was just weird. It was just like there was no civilization at all. It was just zoom, 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 zoom. I
Right.
was scared to death. I was like, oh no, we'll not be doing that again.
Sure. Yeah.
So
And the border patrol is pretty thick out there. Unfortunately there's a lot of human smuggling that happens through the Big Bend. And I think that's another thing that's really scary about that. I mean, it's so beautiful, but if you are not prepared for that, you can strike out. And this actually happened to me. I was going to see this canyon that's actually called Bruja Canyon, which is Spanish for witch. So it's the Witch's Canyon. And you could see it in the distance. It's a big landmark that it's a big like fissure in the mountainside. And I went out with two friends, and I was like, I can get from where we parked to this thing. And what looked like a 10-minute walk, it was actually like a 45-minute walk.
oh
and
wow.
then by the time we got to the Witch's Canyon, we took a couple of photos, and I turned around and realized that I had no idea how to get back to our car. And I had some water, but the truth is that if you don't bring about 4 times as much water as you think you need, you could very easily become dehydrated. And once you get dehydrated, you start hallucinating. Once you start hallucinating, there's no chance of you finding your way back. And thankfully we did. We found our way back, but it took about twice as long to get back as it did to go there. And the people try to get across the border from Mexico, and there's smugglers that they really know their way around. But people die out there. They walk out into the Chihuahuan Desert, into Big Bend, and people don't find them for 100 years until they're just a pile of bones. And that's tragic, but also again, it just lends to this. It's like a beautiful woman in a Bond film, right? She's attractive, she's sultry, but she's going to stab you in the back. And that's kind of like what Big Bend is. It's beautiful, but it wants to kill you.
Oh wow. Yeah. Oh, man. That's a whole new movie.
Yeah, for sure.
A whole new movie,
Yeah.
So wow. Well, Timothy, thank you so much for being on the show. I mean, I really enjoyed this, and I'm sure our viewers and listeners will really enjoy the movie. So tell them again how to get the movie.
Yeah, so out now. We're on digital and VOD. So best places to watch right now: Amazon Prime. You can see on Apple Movies, Microsoft Movies, Google Play. Film is Now is another platform. At the moment, it's all rent by, and it's not that much. It's probably about half of what you would pay for like a big feature film that you might see coming out of Hollywood. But that really helps us a lot. We go into debt for these projects, and buying the film really goes a long way in helping us make our next film. It also just helps us live and eat and all that. So this is a really great opportunity to go watch the film right now. And, you could rent for like $2.99, and that we still get like a substantial amount of that rental cost. Not all of it, because Amazon has to take their part. But go check it out. Right.
Send me the link.
Oh yeah,
I was about to say, send me the link for the pay portion, and that way I can put that out there on our social media too, so we can kind of help you guys that way, push it out that way.
Okay, yeah, and actually what we've done is on our website, spectrographfilms.com. That's SPECTROGRAPH. And actually, can I share right now? I'm sure I can share screen. Let's see here. I don't need to share system audio. We're going to share that, and I'll show people. Am I coming through with that?
Yes.
Okay. So here on spectrographfilms.com, we have a page. You can go the films, the ghost lights, and then we have a trailer you can watch. And here are links to all the places that you can watch. And they're adding platforms weekly at this point. So every time a new platform drops, we'll drop it right here where people can go watch. Or, like I did this last night just for fun. I got in front of my TV and I've got Amazon, Fire Stick, and held the remote and said, play the Ghost Lights, and it popped right up. So that was pretty cool. But people can also, our social media rail is here on the bottom: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Go follow what we're doing, and we'll do updates there as well. Spectrograph Films on all platforms. And then, of course, if you want to look into Dead Hand, this is kind of it's not the final trailer, but it's something you can watch and get a sense of what that is all about. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, and I hope people enjoy the film. It's it's a slow burn. It's a quiet movie. It's a film about loss and regret. So there's a lot of human themes in there as well. But hopefully it's also something that will maybe make you look over your shoulder at night a little bit as well. So.
Yeah, most definitely it is. Most definitely. The whole ideal of everything, from the tragic, I don't want to spill a movie, but from the tragic from the beginning and all the way following her on her journey, I think it's engaging. I don't think it is. I know it's engaging because
thank you. Yeah, and if you're a fan of the X-Files, I think this is a film. I had someone say this could totally be an X-Files episode. And I think they're right. I haven't watched all those, but as a kid, whenever it would come on, I remember sitting there and just being totally transfixed by that show. I also think I had a crush on Scully, but
don't feel bad. I had a crush on Mulder, so don't feel bad.
Yeah, right on. I was jealous of Mulder because he was so cool, But it's funny, as an adult, I started to realize that Mulder is just a big nerd, and I'm
yes,
I just identify with him now because I'm just a big nerd. So it's great.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay, Tim. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. We want to invite you back whenever you have a project that you want some more help pushing it out there. Feel free to contact us. We are here for you. This is what we do right here on SKST Radio.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Well, have a good one, everybody. Until next week, same time, SKST Radio. Bye-bye.